This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 75 of the Wisdom by WESA show on the Horse Radio Network. This is Mike Donnell.
I'm Casey Wilbanks-Coletti.
And this is Sofia Aguila. Welcome to Wisdom by WESA on the Horse Radio Network.
This podcast is brought to you by the Western and English Sales Association,
WESA, which provides the world's largest trade events for retailers, manufacturers, and sales representatives of the equestrian industry. In this podcast, we feature exclusive interviews with noteworthy Western and English personalities, retailers, and exhibitors who you've always wanted to talk to. Don't miss out on all the news for manufacturers and retailers in the equine industry.
Today, we will be interviewing a WESA buyer. Sophia is here to share with us, again, how somebody can become a WESA buyer.
Yeah, so we refer to the qualified stores who attend the WESA trade show as a WESA buyer or retailer. And again, we don't just allow anyone to attend the WESA trade show, and that's just because we're not open to the public. So retailers interested in attending would have to provide 3 invoices from previous wholesale purchases, a retail tax license, a business card, or something similar, and also an ID.
What if someone is new and hasn't made any wholesale purchases before?
So they can substitute the invoices with a copy of their lease, of their store, or even just a picture of their store, their storefront, or also a copy of their website. Really anything that shows that they are truly a store intending to buy from Western or English vendors. We've actually added a lot of new stores recently, so who are just starting out. So it's great that they can use WESA as a platform to connect to the right people right away, and we're happy to help.
And can you restate the application steps again?
Yes, so people can call us at 800-295-1041 or go straight to the website, which is wesatrader.com/attend, and download the application form at the bottom of that page. And then just fill it out, attach the documents, and send it back to us and wait for your WESA login.
In 1910, Charlie Haegel, a German immigrant, started Haegels Harness in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, selling, reconditioning, and repairing work and pleasure harnesses for horse-drawn buggies. Today, that business is known as Haegels West, one of the country's oldest Western wear and tack stores, which is operated by Charlie's great-great-grandson, Patrick, and his wife, Dana. Patrick joins us today to chat about the store's unique history and its bright future. If you're into horses, regardless of your specific interest, you really need to listen to Horse Radio Network's live morning show, Horses in the Morning. This 5-day-a-week show covers virtually everything important in the horse world. If you can't catch the show live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, it's posted on the Horse Radio Network's website immediately after. Pat Jackson, welcome to Wisdom by WESA.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a fun show, I know for sure. It's always fun to talk to retailers because, let's face it, in many ways, unless you retailers sell something, the business doesn't go anywhere. And you're now running what is a 5th-generation business that started out in making harnesses for horse-drawn carriages. And here you are with one of the broadest lines of boots and a lot of experience in this business. Just for our listeners' benefit, especially our fellow retailers, give us a quick generation by generation how the business transfigured from a harness company to what you have now, which is a full-line Western store.
Sure. So in 1910, my great-great-grandfather, Charlie Haegel, opened it in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, opened the business in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, like you said, as a harness shop. My grandfather, who's actually my mom's dad, so it's transitioned to from the wife's side or the mom's side multiple times. So I'm not a Haegel. As you said, my name is Pat Jackson. So Charlie Haegel did harness, and then one of his daughters or family members was never really a part of it. But my grandpa, like I say, my mom's father, he got involved in it. He was a federal bank examiner, but also ended up taking over the business. I think in the 50s or the 60s. and him and my grandma ran the store. When my grandpa was out on the road doing the bank examining, then my grandma ran the store. My parents purchased it, the business in, I want to say, early 90s from my grandparents. Actually, I think my grandpa had passed away, so they bought it from my grandma. And my dad has been working here for almost 50 years now. He sort of stepped back a little bit with COVID, and he had a knee replacement, and years have taken a toll on him a little bit. But he still comes in the store weekly. I mean, he's here every couple days a week. And then my wife and I purchased the business, I want to say 2014, 2015, from my parents. And my wife isn't a part of the business. She is a CPA by trade, but she still comes to WESA, finds some great fashion items. I mean, the selection at WESA is never ending. I mean, you can find just about anything down there. But she takes part by helping me find styles down there. So that brings us today. I have a 4 and a 3-year-old boy and another third boy coming in 10 days. So that would be the 6th generation of the business. So
that is a long lineage in the family of running this business successfully. Tell us a bit about the store now. I know you moved to several times. You've got a pretty broad inventory. How big is the store?
So we are 4,500 square feet on our main floor. We do have a basement, but it's more for storage. That's the one thing we're pretty fortunate. You know, most retailers don't have that space to store stuff, and we're pretty fortunate about that. Granted, that basement, it's full of 5 generations of people saving stuff downstairs. So being as there is 4,500 square feet of storage, there's a lot of cool relics down there. You know, for one example, Panhandle Slim re-released that Brooks and Dunn flame shirt a couple years back, and I called our rep, and we still had 2 of the original cardboard cutouts from Brooks and Dunn when they released that shirt 25, 30 years ago. So that was pretty cool to display. But so it's a 4,500 square foot store.
And you were telling me you happen to have one of the major retail chains in our industry right across the street that you can compete with.
We do. If you walk out our front door, you will walk into Boot Barn right across the street from us. So that's made it interesting. You know, it's concentrated. All of our customers now, they're all in one area. I guess we don't like talking bad about any of our retailers, but you know, it's being a family-owned business. Our full-time gal has been here almost 24 years. Dad's got 50 years of experience. I started working here in 94, went to college for 5 years and still worked on holidays, summers, and then came back. So I've been in here, pushing 26 years. It's having that national retailer across the street. It's the customer service. That's one thing we thrive on, especially in the Western industry. Customer service still goes a long ways. People want to be greeted. They want to be waited on. And, that's the one thing that the big national chains can't always provide, that we can, just a little bit more personable feel when you walk in our business.
Now, one of the things that I read, I think you have a huge boot selection, right?
We do. We got, I think we're up 3,000-4,000 pair now.
And I'm just wondering, from a strategic standpoint, for other retailers who are listening, the advantage of a large boot inventory.
Well, like I say, it is a big undertaking to have that kind of inventory and back stock. But it's been huge for us, and especially in these times when product has become so difficult to come by. You know, we're scratching for different companies trying to get new product and trying to get fill-ins, and it's become very difficult. And being that we had that amount of product, those boots to choose from, it's helped us weather the storm a little bit better. One funny thing is, you know, Grandpa Hagel, when he opened the store as a harness shop, he always said, if you want to go broke, put in boots and clothing. Well, that's what we are now, and we're having actually our best year in 112 years ever currently. So business has been good considering all the challenges we've been facing. So we just keep doing what we're doing and keep plugging away and see what tomorrow brings.
It's time for our fashion consultant, Casey, to step in here. I wanted to comment on that big boot selection, but Casey is our fashion expert, and I wants to know a bit more about the fashion lines you carry.
He always says that, but I just like clothes. That's all there is to it. I just want to take a different approach than I typically do in these interviews, and I would love to talk to you about your trips to WESA trade shows and as a retailer, because this podcast is so many listeners, and I would just love for any new retailers to maybe get some advice from somebody like you that has in a successful family business, obviously for many, many generations. That means you guys are doing something right. Any advice you have in navigating WESA trade shows for the first time as a retailer, looking for brands to carry, and just how you go about that experience?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's a long list there. I would say plan more time, as much time as possible, because especially with the big move to Dallas, that World Trade Center where WESA is currently held, it's I don't want to say overwhelming. There's just 14 floors of merchandise, and not all of them are Western, and not all of them are open all the time. But it's crazy how much the different lines and different products that are available at these shows. It seems like every appointment always goes late. You're never on time, but that's the WESA routine. You're always chasing, trying to stay on time. And making appointments, that's crucial, just because everybody is so busy at these shows. Having an appointment is pretty important. But the one thing that I wish I had more time was that just to go find new lines, because like I say, we carry 50, 60, 70, 100 different lines in our store, and it's just impossible to see them all at WESA. They're all there, and then some. But that's my goal this year, is to find some new lines and just set aside some time where we can just wander and not have an open schedule.
Sure. And I would have to imagine that really catering to your customers and knowing who your customer is, what they will buy, what they like, that's obviously something you guys have honed in on for many, many, many years. What any secrets to that success in getting to know your customers, besides just literally putting in the time?
It's interesting. We had a rep in the store this morning, and we all say, well, we don't like that. And what my dad has always said is you have to buy, you can't just buy stuff you like, because there is, obviously you got to know your customer, you got to know your customer base, but you need to, sort of diversify. We've always traditionally been sort of a meat and potatoes kind of store. Now with the fashion and, as the ever changing industry, switches gears and new styles come out, new fashions, you got to stay on top of it. And, being a meat and potatoes, a pretty traditional store, that's been one of our challenges over the years, is, staying on top of it. You gotta put in these new styles, even though you may not believe in it. You got to rely on these sales reps to tell us what's working, what they're seeing, what the trends are. And that's been one thing that we've noticed, as far as buying for our clients, is just, getting out there and getting out of our comfort zone and trying some new product lines.
What do the typical customers look like for you? Do you have any that don't typically dress in Western wear, that come for like the novelty item?
We do. Our customer base, we're in the southeast corner of South Dakota, and we pull from about 100-mile radius, which includes Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. A lot of our customers egg-based, a lot of farming around here, but also in Sioux Falls, they built a big event center, and it seems we have a country concert every other week. It's going on out there, and that's been huge for us. Is the concerts. People come in, they want their boots, they want their pearl snap shirt, or even some fancy shirts, like you say, the novelty shirt. And so we do see that as well. But the majority of our customer base, I'd say, is the egg-based customer, the farmer, is who we see for the most part.
And I'd love, the reason I'm picking your brain so much is because obviously you don't see generational businesses very often anymore. They seem to be dying off. So the fact that you were the great grandson of, the original founder is quite impressive. And so I would love some of our listeners that are from the brand perspective to know what they can do for a retailer to be considered to be carried in their store. What could brands do to catch the eye of new retailers?
Sure. Now, when we've seen this a lot with a lot of we're now competing against some of our vendors. They all have their own .com presence now, and it's been challenging. We've heard it from not just in our industry, but across the board. These manufacturers are now direct to consumer.
Yeah,
I love these manufacturers that don't offer that, because it's like, I don't want to go up to bat. I don't want to go fight against, try to compete with my own vendor.
sure.
So that's huge for us in our eye. My dad would never do business with sales reps that would never call on him. He was sort of old school, old fashioned, and he wanted to be taken care of. He wanted to be called on. Now there's some hotlines, where we don't always see sales reps, and I have worked past that little, if we don't see a sales rep, it's fine, especially with technology anymore, email or Zoom
Sure.
calls or all that. It's pretty easy to see lines and get a hold of people these days. But as far as the vendors, that's huge for us. I don't want to be competing against my own vendor, and it's going to happen. It does happen all the time, but it's just one more thing in this crazy business climate that we got to compete against.
Sure.
Can I ask an operational question here? Because I'm sure earlier in your father's day and before that, people came in, they bought something, they pulled out their wallet and they gave you cash. Then maybe they began to use credit cards. But in today's market, especially at retail, there are so many different payment methods. And I'm wondering what your thoughts and observations have been in terms of retailers either wanting or not wanting to adopt new payment methods, especially for the younger consumer.
Our credit card machine now accepts Apple Pay. It does all that, those new forms of payments. It's crazy because, like I say, my dad comes in here and people ask to pay with, where they tap their phone or Apple Pay, and he has no idea what those are. I sort of chuckle a little bit. I'm like, Dad, it's all right. Even I'm not up to speed on some of these payment systems. But that's the wave of the future. You have to get with the times. If this is all they have, and a lot of these younger generations, they have Apple Pay, they pay with their phones, they pay with their watch. And if you don't offer that, there's a good chance that you can miss out on that sale. So it's huge. It's predominantly, most of our business is still credit card, but we do have a number of cases weekly or monthly where people are paying with these new forms of payments, whatsoever it be.
And I think it will probably become more as more generations come in to buy from you. And it even becomes more prevalent among the millennials and other people who've, for lots of reasons, decide they really don't want to use a credit card or they don't want to use cash. And so I was just curious what you were doing, because I think other retailers are probably facing the same challenge. How do we accept? We know how to get a customer in, and we know how to take care of that customer, and then they pull out their phone or they pull out their watch or something else to make their purchase, and the retailer needs to be able to accept that payment if he's doing everything else right.
Sure. And one thing I think is, it tells the waves of the times, all of our rodeo wallets, checkbook covers, they used to have a spot for wallets with the plastic flap, for the carbon copy checks. We're struggling. Still got some old boys still looking for that type of wallet for their checkbooks. They just don't have them anymore. Nobody makes them anymore. And that just tells you, that a lot of people don't take checks anymore, but just the checks we're seeing few and fewer of, and it's switching over, like you say, to the credit cards and these newer forms of payment. So we've noticed that too, in the store.
Well, and I think it'll become more prevalent. Pat, is there anything else about your store and the family that has guided it that we haven't talked about that you think people should know about the business?
Like you pointed out, the family-owned business, it's a dying breed. We're a dinosaur. They're just not happening, whether it be the retail store or the family farm. There's become fewer and fewer of us. Everything, everything's becoming more corporatized, if you will. So it's cool that, we hear stories. I know there's another Western store up in Minneapolis, and they're, I think, 114 years. And even Eastern South Dakota, there's a number of family-owned stores. You got Double D up in Huron, and then Hitch and Post up in Aberdeen. We talk to each other all the time. When COVID hit, we'd call each other, how you doing? What's going on? What are you guys doing? How are you going to do things different? And then when it's become harder and harder to find product, we'll call each other and ask, hey, do you have this shirt? Do you have this jean? So it's pretty cool that we can still do that as we can work together as a team during these times.
I think that's a great piece of information. We don't hear about that too often. Pat, I tell you, we've enjoyed talking about your company and your business and how you're growing it. Maybe one quick question. What do you see in the future that might be different if we were talking 2 or 3 years from now in the business in general or in your store in general, if anything?
So one big undertaking for us has been creating an e-commerce presence. We started in April of 2020, integrating our software into an e-commerce platform so that we are able to sell online. Since then, we have launched our website, www.haegelswest.com, and we are slowly adding product on there. Just, you gotta have that online presence. If you don't, you're missing out. Since we've launched, we've had a handful of orders. It's sort of been a soft release, as not everything is on there. So for us, that's for the store, that's what we're going to see new going forward in the next few years. It's just that online presence. The business climate in general, I hope this isn't the new way of doing business, struggling to find products, having lead times from these vendors that are months and months out. It's crazy times. I know across the board from the manufacturers and the shipping, things have just gotten really screwy. And, I hope this isn't the new way of doing business, but I guess, only time will tell. So.
Well, and you seem to be adjusting to it as best you possibly can. So I think that your store will be there and the family will be in the business. That young generation coming up in another 20, 30 years will be, we'll be talking to them, but I'm sure that someone will be talking to them about how the company is growing since their great-great-great-great-grandfather started the harness business back in 1910.
Yep, it should be interesting. It's been a great 112 years, and we'll stick around here just to see what happens next, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for the time.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Pat. Bye.
You bet. Thanks, Casey. Bye.
The show notes and links from today's show can be found at wisdombywesa.com. And, of course, we'd love to hear your feedback. There's a contact link on that website.
The Wisdom by WESA show will be published on the 15th and 30th of every month. You can listen on most of your favorite podcast players, and you can also listen on the Horse Radio Network app on your iOS or Android phone. You just search Horse Radio Network in the App Store. It's free and super easy to use. Be sure to visit all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. Thanks for listening to the Wisdom by WESA podcast. WESA, where the industry meets.